Can you build PERMA not only in your own life, but for large groups? We'll start with P. So P is life satisfaction, contentment, subjective well-being, positive emotion, and the like. So let me just take one bit of science and then one bit of intervention that's been discovered about how to have more of that in your own life. So the question is, what's a healthy ratio of positive to negative thoughts? So for the next week, right before you go to sleep, write down 3 things that went well today. They don't have to be big things, and why they went well. So it turns out when you do a serious testing of this, 6 months later, people who do this have less depression and higher life satisfaction than appropriate controls. And importantly, it's addicting. I've been a psychotherapist all my life, all my adult life. The dirty little secret of psychotherapy and psychopharmacology is that its effects are temporary. That once you stop therapy or stop the drug, it melts. And effectiveness equals how long it takes before it melts back to zero. The nice thing about the positive psychology techniques is they're self-maintaining. So it turns out when you start doing 3 good things every night, you just keep doing it because you sleep better and the like. So that's P. E, engagement. So interesting fact about engagement, this is what Mike Csikszentmihalyi calls flow. We're interested under what conditions can you have more flow in life. What are your 5 highest strengths? And what we find is that when people use their highest strengths to meet the challenges that come their way, that they go into flow. They're more engaged. So E, engagement. R, relationships. Marriage counseling is the most dismal form of therapy. People are lying to you, they're lying to each other. Sometimes they agree on hating you, and then things go a little better. So that's not quite a positive psychology aim. The question is how you can actually make a better marriage. So about 8 years ago, Shelley Gable and her marital counseling friends from UCLA said, let's not look at how people fight, let's look at how they celebrate together. So they asked the question, what do you say to your spouse when she comes home with been promoted at work? What do you say? And it turns, so imagine active, passive, constructive, destructive. By the way, this doesn't come naturally at all. So what I used to do until I read this literature was passive constructive, which is congratulations, dear, you deserve it. That has no effect on relationships. The drill sergeants that I work with do active destructive. You know what tax bracket that's going to put us into? Passive destructive is something like, what's for dinner? So that's number 3. R, number 4, meaning. Meaning for me is fairly simple-minded. It's belonging to and serving something you believe is bigger than you are in life. I've worked in suicide most of my life, and suicide is a complete mess. And the reason it's a complete mess, no one ever had a large number of suicides, all of whom took the same test before. We had 84 people who killed themselves in the Army last year, all of whom took our test of psychological strengths. So we were able to ask the PERMA question, can you predict suicide? And the answer is, it turns out you can. And it surprised me because the theory is that suicide is about hopelessness. Turns out if you're in the bottom 1% of no meaning in life and my work in the Army has no purpose, roughly half those people killed themselves. So there's a red flag for suicide, and it has to do with the complete absence of meaning in life. And A, achievement, and this is what government usually measures since the Industrial Revolution, GDP and the like, but this is the question of achieving goals. So Angela Duckworth, my colleague, and I are interested in the question of who never gives up and self-discipline, and we try to predict academic achievement. from IQ and from grit. And in general, when we look at success in academia, grit, that is this never giving up and self-discipline, accounts for about twice as much of the variance as IQ. America has spelling bees. 1 million children enter these things in which you have to spell autochthonous and hard words like that. And so 2 years running, Angela took the 172 finalists, measured their IQ and measured grit, and found that both times grit, but not IQ, predicted the final four 2 years running. I've said that well-being, for me, consists in PERMA, positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And I've said that we know something about how to build that. There's actually random assignment, placebo-controlled studies with individuals